The air in the courtroom hung heavy, thick with unspoken grief and a chilling anticipation. All eyes were fixed on her Mackenzie, appearing remarkably composed, almost eerily confident. She sat there, a picture of calm, as if this entire proceeding was merely a formality, a minor inconvenience before she walked free. She even offered a slight, almost imperceptible smile, a gesture that twisted the hearts of those who knew the victims. It was a stark, unsettling contrast to the raw agony etched on the faces of the families present. Then, the lights dimmed. A hushed whisper rippled through the gallery, quickly swallowed by an overwhelming silence as the prosecution prepared to play their crucial evidence. The massive screen flickered to life, and suddenly, the courtroom was plunged into the terrifying reality of that fateful night. Gasps erupted, choked sobs echoed, and a collective gasp of horror filled the room as the surveillance video began to play. It was undeniable. The footage, raw and unedited, displayed a silver Toyota Camry, initially moving slowly, almost deliberately, before accelerating with a terrifying surge of power. The speed climbed, relentlessly, to a speed 100 mph. "Oh my God," a woman in the gallery whispered, her voice cracking with despair. There were no skid marks, no desperate swerving, no attempt to brake, just a straight, unrelenting path directly into a brick wall. The impact was violent, sickeningly final. A collective shudder went through the room. A mother's guttural cry pierced the silence. A sound so profoundly painful, it felt as if the air had been ripped from everyone's lungs. Many buried their faces in their hands, unable to watch the horror unfold, yet unable to tear their minds away from the unthinkable truth presented before them. The video ended, but the silence, now heavy with shock and sorrow, remained. Mackenzie, for the first time, looked away, her carefully constructed composure shattered. It wasn't an accident. The prosecutor's voice cut through the stillness, stark and resolute. It was an act of pure, chilling intent. The weight of those words settled upon the room, heavier than any verdict. This was no tragic mistake. This was a deliberate act that snuffed out 2 young lives. The tears finally came for Mackenzie, but they seemed less of remorse and more of a realization that her carefully crafted facade had crumbled to dust. This opening courtroom moment immediately sets a somber, emotional tone and links directly to the next point by introducing Mackenzie Shirilla and the initial perception of her, which then leads to the reveal of who the victims are. Would you like me to continue developing the script based on the detailed case information you provided, ensuring each section flows into the next? Asterisk, who is Mackenzie Shirilla? Before the courtroom drama, the chilling video, and the shattered lives, Mackenzie Shirilla was just another teenager. She looked like the embodiment of suburban youth in Strongsville, Ohio, a quiet, seemingly idyllic town. Her social media was a vibrant gallery of selfies, dance trends, and perfectly curated tic-tacs, painting a picture of a bubbly, confident girl enjoying high school life. She balanced classes, fashion, and fun, cruising through familiar streets. In her car, just like any other teen on the cusp of adulthood, but behind the filters and carefully crafted online persona, a darker, more turbulent reality existed. Mackenzie was entangled in a deeply volatile relationship with her boyfriend, 20-year-old Dominic Russo. He was known around Town Street, smart, good-looking, always surrounded by friends. Despite their age difference and constant rocky ups and downs, Mackenzie and Dominic remained together, drawn into a destructive cycle that friends would later describe as not just rocky, but explosive. The emotional intensity between them was a ticking time bomb. As July 2022 drew to a close, this volatility reached a terrifying, unprecedented peak. Friends and family had witnessed their heated arguments, the dramatic swings from affection to animosity. Their fights were something else. One friend reportedly said, a sense of dread in their voice. It was a relationship fueled by raw emotion, a powder keg waiting for a spark. Little did anyone know, the fuse was already lit, and the suburban streets Mackenzie often cruised would soon become the stage for a horrific tragedy. The question then becomes, how did a seemingly normal teenager, with her life ahead of her, find herself at the center of such an unimaginable catastrophe? What hidden depths of turmoil could lead to such a devastating outcome? The answers would begin to unfold in the early hours of July 31st, 2022, when the quiet calm of was shattered forever. This brings us directly to the fatal crash, July 31st, 2022. Asterisk. The fatal crash, July 31, 2022. The clock ticked past 5:30 a.m. on July 31, 2022. Most of Strongsville, Ohio, was still asleep, but surveillance cameras in a deserted industrial area captured something chilling. A silver Toyota Camry, driven by Mackenzie Shirilla, was seen slowly navigating Alameda Drive. This wasn't a residential street. It was a desolate stretch of road, far from home. A feeling of unease hung in the air, a silent prelude to the horror about to unfold. Inside that car, alongside Mackenzie, sat her boyfriend, 20-year-old Dominic Russo, and their friend, 19-year-old Davion Flanagan. What began as a seemingly mundane drive quickly transformed into a nightmare. The footage showed Mackenzie circling back. Then, with a terrifying, sudden surge, she floored the gas pedal. The car's engine roared, propelling them forward at an unbelievable speed. It was a deliberate act, devoid of any attempt to slow down. Within seconds, the Camry became a metallic blur, hurtling towards a solid brick wall of a vacant warehouse. The impact was catastrophic, a sound that would forever echo in the minds of those who heard it described. The vehicle, once a symbol of teenage freedom, was instantly crumpled like an accordion, a mangled wreck of twisted metal and shattered glass. The scene was ripped from a horror movie, a stark testament to the unimaginable force of the collision. Firefighters and first responders arrived quickly, but the sight that greeted them was grim. Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan were pronounced dead at the scene, their young lives brutally extinguished in an instant. The sheer finality of it was a punch to the gut. Yet, amidst the devastation, a shocking detail emerged. Mackenzie somehow survived. She was alive, breathing, pulled from the wreckage of a crash that had claimed two others. This stark contrast, her survival amidst such utter devastation, immediately raised questions, sowing the seeds of doubt. Why her? Why were two young men gone while she emerged relatively unscathed? The crash was no ordinary accident. It was an act of such ferocious intensity that it defied explanation, and the answers, or lack thereof, would soon lead to the bewildering emergency response and aftermath. Emergency response and aftermath. The silence after the impact was deafening, broken only by the distant wail of sirens growing closer. Firefighters and paramedics descended upon the mangled wreckage of the silver Toyota Camry, their faces grim in the pre-dawn light. The car was compressed beyond recognition, a chilling testament to the violence of the crash. Hopes were dim, yet first responders, driven by an unwavering sense of duty, began their grim task. "Who can hear my voice?" A firefighter's desperate shout cut through the still air, a plea into the abyss of crumpled steel. Then, a miracle amidst the horror. A voice from the depths of the twisted metal responded. "She's breathing," someone exclaimed, a flicker of disbelief in their tone. It was Mackenzie Shirilla, somehow alive. Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan, however, were gone, pronounced dead at the scene. Their young lives, full of promise, had been brutally extinguished in that incomprehensible impact. The sight of their bodies, lifeless amidst the debris, was a heart-wrenching blow for the emergency crews. Mackenzie was carefully extricated, her injuries non-life-threatening, a perplexing outcome given the catastrophic nature of the crash. As she was whisked away to the hospital, questions began to swirl. How could she have survived such an unfathomable impact while her two passengers perished? There were no skid marks, no signs of braking, nothing to suggest a driver trying to avoid a collision. It was a scene that defied the typical narrative of a tragic accident, leaving investigators with an unnerving sense of unease. While Mackenzie received medical attention, police began their painstaking investigation at the scene. Each piece of debris, every shattered shard of glass, was a silent witness to the horror. The initial assumption might have been a reckless teen losing control, but the deeper they dug, the more the pieces didn't fit. This wasn't just a car crash, it was a ghastly puzzle begging to be solved. And the first, most crucial piece of that puzzle would soon be unearthed, leading to a shocking investigative breakthrough. The black box web explored the fractured world Mackenzie and Dominic inhabited, a relationship so volatile it seemed to be a powder keg waiting for a spark. But what truly ignited the tragedy? What was the definitive moment that transformed an argument into an unspeakable act? The answer, chillingly precise, lay hidden within the shattered remnants of that silver Camry. Within a device no bigger than a paperback novel, the black box, This wasn't just a simple piece of equipment, it was the silent witness, holding secrets that would rip apart Mackenzie's carefully constructed facade. The moment investigators retrieved the vehicle's event data recorder, the air in the room thickened with anticipation. What would it reveal? Could it truly shed light on the darkness of that morning? The download completed, and the data began to scroll, painting a picture far more sinister than anyone initially imagined. Then came the gut punch. The readouts showed something utterly devastating. No brakes were applied, not a single touch. The accelerator, however, was fully pressed, flat to the floor, surging the car to a horrifying 100 miles per hour. "It's impossible," one investigator whispered, his voice laced with disbelief. "She floored it, all the way." This wasn't a tragic error. This wasn't a young driver losing control in a moment of panic. This was a deliberate act. The black box screamed the undeniable truth. It was intentional. The sheer force of this evidence, so cold and undeniable, would shatter the lives of everyone involved, revealing a calculated intent that made stomachs churn. The courtroom would gasp, tears would flow, and the devastating reality would hit like a physical blow. The missing pieces of that horrific puzzle were suddenly, brutally, in place. This wasn't an accident. It was a mission of death. A troubled relationship and motive have just uncovered the chilling truth from the black box. This was no accident. The car was deliberately accelerated, the brakes untouched. But this revelation only begs a deeper, more agonizing question. Why? What could possibly drive a seemingly ordinary teenager to such a horrifying act? To truly understand the depths of this tragedy, we must delve into the dark, tumultuous heart of Mackenzie Shirilla's relationship with Dominic Russo. It was a bond described by friends not as love, but as an explosive, toxic cycle of drama and control. Their arguments were relentless, each one pushing the boundaries of what a healthy relationship should endure. Dominic's friends described Mackenzie as increasingly possessive, her emotions spiraling into obsession. Imagine the tension, the constant fear of the next outburst. In the weeks leading up to that fateful night, text messages and social media posts painted a grim picture of Mackenzie's state of mind. One message, sent during a heated dispute, sent shivers down the spine of investigators. "I'll crash this car and end it all." A chilling statement, dismissed by some as mere teenage hyperbole, but now it resonated with a terrifying, prophetic weight. "She meant it," a former friend testified, their voice trembling with the realization that came too late. This wasn't just idle talk. It was a veiled threat, a dark seed planted in the fertile ground of a deeply troubled mind. Mackenzie's obsessive behavior, coupled with these disturbing threats, began to weave a terrifying narrative. Was this the desperate cry of a teenager overwhelmed, or something far more sinister? The motive was beginning to crystallize, chillingly, as something born from the volatile crucible of their relationship. But if she was truly contemplating such an extreme act, wouldn't there be other signs, other preparations? This brings us to the next shocking piece of evidence, the surveillance footage of the test run. Surveillance footage. The test run, the black box data, had screamed intentional, and the toxic relationship with Dominic provided a chilling motive. But could something so horrific truly be premeditated? Could a young woman truly plan such a devastating act? The answer, shockingly, emerged from the most mundane of sources: routine surveillance footage. What these silent cameras captured in the days leading up to the crash would forever obliterate any lingering doubt, transforming a supposed accident into a cold, calculated act. Imagine the scene. Days before the fatal impact, the silver Toyota Camry, driven by Mackenzie, is caught on camera. Not by chance, but actively, repeatedly, navigating the exact stretch of deserted industrial road where the crash would later occur. It was as if she was rehearsing. Each pass, each turn, each moment lingered on the grainy screen, painting a disturbing portrait of a chilling purpose. Prosecutors would later brand it a trial run, a phrase that sent a collective shiver through the courtroom. She was practicing, the prosecutor stated, his voice heavy with the gravity of the revelation. Practicing for murder. This wasn't a spontaneous outburst of rage, but a chilling pattern of planning and repetition. The footage revealed a methodical nature beneath the veneer of a troubled teen. She wasn't just driving, she was mapping out a grim destiny. The casual passes of the Camry, once innocuous, now felt like silent screams of impending doom. This evidence was a dagger to the heart of the defense's claims of an accident, leaving everyone to grapple with the truly horrifying implications. As the footage continued to play, the question shifted from how did this happen, to a desperate, gut-wrenching why was this allowed to happen. The pain for the victims' families, already unimaginable, was about to deepen even further. Asterisk, the victims' families react. The surveillance footage of Mackenzie's chilling test run solidified the unthinkable. This was a premeditated act. But while the evidence painted a picture of deliberate intent, the human cost was just beginning to unfold. Nothing could prepare anyone for the raw, guttural agony of the families who had lost everything. This is where the story truly breaks your heart, where the clinical facts of the case collide with the devastating reality of unimaginable grief. The police officers, faces etched with somber determination, arrived at the home of Dominic Russo's mother. The moment they stood at her door, the air itself seemed to grow heavy with unspoken sorrow. She saw it in their eyes. Something was terribly, irrevocably wrong. Is he involved? She asked, her voice a fragile whisper of hope that was about to be shattered. When the officers uttered his name, confirming her deepest fear, her knees buckled. A sound, a wail of pure, unadulterated disbelief, ripped through the quiet neighborhood. No, oh my God, no, she screamed, collapsing into desperate tears, begging them to tell her it wasn't true. Her cries echoed, a haunting symphony of a mother's worst nightmare brought to life. The weight of the unimaginable news crashed down upon her, leaving her a broken heap of sorrow. Dominic, her bright street-smart son, gone, just like that. And it wasn't just Dominic's family. The Flanagan family, equally devastated, grappled with the senseless loss of 19-year-old Davion. He was simply a friend, in the wrong place at the worst possible time. Their heartbreak was profound, their grief a silent, aching testament to a life abruptly stolen. These were not just names on a police report. They were sons, brothers, friends, their futures cruelly snatched away. How Mackenzie would react to her role in this devastation, that was the next terrifying question. Asterisk, Mackenzie's arrest and behavior. The raw, agonizing grief of Dominic and Davion's families was a crushing weight. Their world had been irrevocably shattered by Mackenzie's actions now known to be deliberate. But what about Mackenzie herself? How did the person responsible for such a devastating outcome react in the immediate aftermath, once the cold, hard truth of her test run and the black box data began to close in? Her behavior following the crash, especially during her arrest, would become another haunting piece of this complex puzzle, leaving investigators bewildered by its contradictory nature. Pulled from the mangled wreckage, Mackenzie survived the crash with surprisingly minor injuries, but as officers secured her in the back of the patrol car, her emotions flickered with an unsettling unpredictability. At times, she was eerily calm, almost unbothered, staring blankly out the window as if the chaos around her was merely a distant dream. Then, without warning, the tears would come. She'd break down, sobbing softly, the picture of a traumatized teenager. Yet, just as quickly as the tears began, she would regain her composure, her face returning to that unsettling calm. Is she putting on a show? One officer might have wondered, a knot of unease tightening in their stomach. This rapid shift from distress to a detached stillness was deeply unsettling. It was a ride filled with jarring contradictions, a microcosm of the entire case itself. For investigators, her behavior spoke volumes, hinting at either profound psychological instability or a chilling level of manipulation. Was she a victim of her own twisted emotions, or a cold, calculated individual trying to deceive? This ambiguous demeanor became a crucial part of the ongoing investigation, as they tried to reconcile the girl they saw with the evidence pointing to her intentional acts. Her actions and expressions in that police cruiser would set the stage for the intense legal battle that was about to unfold as the trial began in August 2023. The trial begins August 2023. Mackenzie's unsettling composure in the police car only deepened the mystery surrounding her. Was she a manipulative culprit or a deeply disturbed victim of circumstance? This burning question hung heavy in the air as the legal process moved forward. After months of intense investigation, forensic analysis, and emotional testimony from grieving families, the stage was set for the ultimate showdown. In August 2023, the world watched as Mackenzie Shirilla's trial began, a courtroom drama that would seek to unravel the truth behind a tragedy that had shattered 3 families. The atmosphere in the courtroom was thick with anticipation, a palpable tension as the prosecution prepared to lay out its case. When the charges were formally read, a collective gasp swept through the gallery. Multiple counts of aggravated murder and endangering the lives of minors. The gravity of the accusations was immense, painting Mackenzie not as a reckless teen, but as a perpetrator of an intentional, deadly act. Her future, once filled with the typical aspirations of a high school senior, now hung precariously in the balance, a terrifying stark contrast. The battle lines were drawn. On one side, the prosecution, armed with the damning black box data, the chilling test-run surveillance footage, and heartbreaking witness testimonies. They aimed to prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Mackenzie had weaponized her car, turning a routine vehicle into a 3,500-pound missile aimed at a brick wall. On the other side, Mackenzie's defense team was ready to counter, to paint a very different picture. The legal drama was set to unfold, promising a roller coaster of emotions and shocking revelations. The central question for the defense, facing such overwhelming evidence, was how could they possibly explain away the undeniable facts? What desperate measures would they take to try and clear Mackenzie's name? The defense strategy as the trial commenced. With the weight of multiple murder charges pressing down, Mackenzie Shirilla's defense team knew they faced an uphill battle. The prosecution's evidence, particularly the black box data and the test-run surveillance footage, painted a chilling picture of premeditation. To counter this, her lawyers crafted a strategy designed to evoke sympathy and introduce doubt, clinging to the narrative that the crash was nothing more than a tragic, albeit horrifying, accident. They had to humanize her, to strip away the image of a cold-blooded killer. Mackenzie herself chose not to testify, leaving her legal team to speak on her behalf. Through them, a story of heartbreak and trauma emerged. They claimed she suffered from severe memory loss and brain trauma from the crash, asserting that she simply couldn't recall anything from that horrific night. How can you convict someone of intent? Her lawyer might have argued, their voice filled with a desperate plea, when they can't even remember the act itself. This was a calculated move to shift the focus from intent to the chaotic aftermath and Mackenzie's supposed injuries. The defense painted Mackenzie as a grieving teenager, overwhelmed by a toxic relationship and a moment of severe misjudgment. They proposed various alternative theories. Perhaps Dominic had suddenly grabbed the steering wheel, or it was a sudden acceleration panic, a desperate attempt to avoid an unseen obstacle. Is it just kids being kids? Her lawyer posited, trying to downplay the severity, or is it a sudden, uncontrollable panic that led to a tragic mistake? They leaned heavily on emotion, portraying her as a victim of circumstances, not a villain. The goal was clear: to convince the court that while the outcome was devastating, the intent for murder was simply not there. But would this emotional appeal be enough to stand against the mounting, undeniable evidence the prosecution was about to present? The prosecution's evidence. The defense painted a picture of a traumatized teenager, claiming memory loss and a tragic accident. But the prosecution wasn't relying on emotion or conjecture. They presented a relentless onslaught of irrefutable evidence that meticulously dismantled Mackenzie's narrative piece by chilling piece. Their goal was clear: to demonstrate that this was not a mistake, but a calculated act of murder. The courtroom held its breath as each revelation hit with the force of a hammer. First, the undeniable black box data from the Toyota Camry itself. This digital witness told a story of unyielding acceleration, a pedal flawed, and critically, no braking. At 100 miles per hour, with the brick wall rapidly approaching, Mackenzie made no attempt to slow down or swerve. It was a straight, full-speed impact, shattering any illusion of a last-minute panic or an attempt to avoid a crash. This wasn't reckless driving. It was a deliberate act of propulsion toward destruction. The car's own memory exposes her intent, the prosecutor declared, the words hanging heavy in the silent room. Then came the shocking surveillance footage of the test run. This grainy video, showing Mackenzie driving the exact route days before. The fatal crash was a gut punch to the defense's claims of spontaneity. It revealed a disturbing pattern, a methodical reconnaissance for the horrific event to come. This wasn't a joyride, the prosecution asserted. It was a reconnaissance mission for murder. Furthermore, testimonies from friends revealed Mackenzie's own chilling words in the weeks leading up to the crash, threats to harm Dominic, even explicitly stating she would crash the car to end it all. These were not idle teenage boasts, but dark prophecies that tragically came true. Each piece of evidence intertwined, forming an undeniable tapestry of intent, leaving little room for doubt. The stage was now set for the final, heartbreaking chapter of this tragic case, the verdict and sentencing. *The verdict and sentencing. The prosecution's damning evidence, meticulously presented, had systematically dismantled the defense's attempts to portray the crash as a tragic accident. Every piece, from the black box data revealing no braking to the chilling test run surveillance footage, pointed to a deliberate act. The courtroom, heavy with anticipation, now awaited the culmination of this harrowing trial. It was August 14, 2023. The day Judge Nancy Margaret Russo would deliver her verdict, a decision that would seal Mackenzie Shirilla's fate and, hopefully, bring some semblance of closure to the shattered families of Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan. As the judge began to speak, a palpable silence fell over the room. Every eye was fixed on her, every breath held. When she declared guilty on all counts, a collective gasp, almost imperceptible, rippled through the gallery. The judge's words were precise, unyielding, and devastating. Mackenzie had acted with purpose and intent, accelerating towards that wall as a mission of death. There was no mechanical failure, no medical emergency, just a chilling, deliberate act to end two young lives. The truth, finally, had been laid bare, exposing the cold, calculated nature of Mackenzie's actions. Then came the sentencing, the ultimate consequence of her choices. Mackenzie Shirilla, just 19 years old, was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. The reality of her conviction hit her like a tidal wave. The composure she had sometimes displayed, the confident demeanor she carried, shattered instantly. She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably, her body racked with tremors as the sentence was read. The girl who had once smiled in court, seemingly believing she'd walk free, was now a convicted murderer, facing a lifetime behind bars. Her tears, previously absent or fleeting, now flowed freely, filling the room with the raw sound of a future irrevocably lost. This was not the freedom she had envisioned. This was justice, stark and unyielding. The impact of this verdict would ripple far beyond the courtroom, igniting intense public reaction and debate about the true nature of this tragic case. Aftermath and public reaction. The judge's verdict and the crushing sentence delivered to Mackenzie Shirilla sent shockwaves far beyond the courtroom, igniting a fervent and often deeply divided public reaction. Social media became a battleground of opinions, a digital echo chamber where sympathy and condemnation clashed. For some, Mackenzie was a troubled teenager whose life had spiraled tragically out of control, a young person deserving of empathy despite her devastating actions. They saw a broken girl caught in the throes of a toxic relationship who made an irreversible mistake. "She's just a kid who lost her way," many posts argued, attempting to humanize her plight. But for the majority, particularly those who had followed the harrowing details of the trial, there was little room for sympathy. They saw a manipulative individual who had cruelly played the victim, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. The public was outraged by the cold, calculated nature of the crash, exposed by the black box data and the chilling test run footage. For them, justice had been served, albeit in the shadow of unspeakable loss. "She deserves every year of that sentence." Angry comments flooded online forums, reflecting a collective demand for accountability. The raw, immeasurable pain of Dominic, Russo's and Davion Flanagan's families resonated deeply with the public. Dominic's mother, Christine, heartbroken and devastated, uttered words that tore at the soul. "She was part of our family. We loved her, and yet she's the reason my son is gone." Her anguish, a mother's inconsolable sorrow, echoed through every news report and social media share. Davion's family, too, expressed their profound heartbreak, emphasizing that he was simply a friend in the wrong place at the worst time imaginable, an innocent bystander caught in a maelstrom he never deserved. This case, a stark reminder of how quickly reckless choices can turn fatal, left a community grappling with questions that continue to linger. The sentencing of Mackenzie Shirilla brought a legal close to a truly heart-wrenching case. But the echoes of this tragedy will forever ripple through the lives it touched. We've journeyed through the unsettling composure of a teen in court, the chilling evidence that shattered her facade, and the ultimate, devastating verdict. The story of Dominic and Davion, two young lives cut short, serves as a grim reminder of the profound impact of reckless choices and unchecked emotions. It wasn't just speeding, it wasn't just an argument, it was a fatal decision, one that left 3 families shattered and a teenage girl behind bars for life. To this day, the question lingers in many minds: was this truly a calculated act of murder, or the horrific culmination of a toxic relationship and a moment of unfathomable desperation? The evidence presented in court painted a clear picture of intent, yet the human element, the volatile emotions of a troubled youth, adds layers of complexity. The sheer weight of that judgment, 15 years to life, underscores the gravity of the lives lost and the accountability demanded. What does this case teach us about responsibility, about the devastating consequences when personal conflicts spiral out of control? We've seen the footage, heard the raw emotion, and witnessed the justice system at work. Now, we want to hear from you. After reviewing the details of Mackenzie Shirilla's case, what are your thoughts? Do you believe this was a tragic accident or a calculated plan all along? Share your perspectives and insights in the comments below. Your input helps us understand the broader impact of these true crime stories. If you found this deep dive into the case compelling, be sure to watch the next video on your screen for more untold stories.